You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 12. Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kailey
and Josiane from Educalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there. Welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. Today is a different episode. Josiane isn't here with me today. Instead, I'm interviewing a friend of ours, Janelle. Janelle is an educator and she's one of our Educalm classroom beta testers. So she's been practicing mindfulness in her classroom with her students and testing out all of our lessons and checking to see if they're good and giving us feedback if there's anything that we can improve. So, hey, Janelle, welcome to the episode.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so fun to have you here.
It's so exciting.
So today, we're just going to chat.
Which we're super good at.
Yeah, we're both very talkative. Normally, you and me and Josiane, we get together and we just chat for hours and hours and hours.
Talk each other's ears off.
Exactly. Yeah. We always have so much to talk about. We met in university while we were doing our degree in education, and we've been friends ever since.
Yeah, we clicked from day one.
Yep. So it's so fun to have you here. We're going to talk really about you today.
Oh, so flattering.
In a future episode, I think we're going to have you back, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you're using Educalm Classroom with your students in grade 2. But today, we actually just want to know about you and how your life is going.
Oh, so fun.
So my first question for you, Janelle, is what's lighting you up in your life right now?
Oh, what's lighting me up? That's a beautiful question. Well, first of all, I love my job. It's 5 years now that I've been teaching the second grade, and it's a constant joy in my life. I love my job. I'm super lucky. I actually get to teach at the same school where I went as a kid, so that's super fun. And yeah, every day is an adventure, and every day is different, and that's what I love about my job. And it's such a wonderful age. They still are kind of dependent on you and want to learn, but at the same time, they're getting independent. So that's awesome. Other things in my personal life that are lighting me up. I mean, I could not mention that I have a new husband. We got married last fall, and actually Kailey married us, which was very special because she's the one that introduced us. So that's pretty wonderful. I'm a very social person. So to me, the light in my life are my relationships. So my friends, my family, seeing my parents, seeing people just brings me joy and energizes me. I've noticed that if ever I'm at home and sick, for example, or, a not very busy weekend and I'm just sitting at home all weekend, I feel like I lose energy. So to me, being around people that I love is what brings me light and joy.
That's so awesome. Okay, first, I just want to touch on the point that your husband, Aaron, he is the musician that created the music at the start and at the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
And he is so awesome.
So talented.
So talented. He totally hit the nail on the head for exactly what we were hoping for, something like light and calming, and we love the music. So
he'll be super happy to hear that.
Yeah. So Aaron, if you're listening, thank you. You're awesome. And I like that you brought up the fact that you are energized by being around people. So I personally, I used to be that way. Like I loved being around people all the time. And then I kind of like hit this point in my life where there was a shift and I recognized that I was becoming more of an introvert. So introverted in the sense of that, like I get energized by being alone, and that's how I refuel. And then I love being around people, and like you, I love my relationships and they're so important to me. And after being at events or things with lots of people, I really need to kind of have some alone time to recharge. So it's so cool that you recharge by being with people.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the most important thing is that you know yourself, and that, like you said, you discover that about yourself, or you change,
Yeah.
Over time we change and we develop into better versions of ourselves, or we evolve. And my mom always says that, same as you, she needs her downtime to re-energize. And I mean, I do have a part of me that's like that. I do need my alone time. I appreciate being alone, but yeah, at the end of the day, I just know that if I'm alone for too long, I start to kind of feel depressed, like I just need to get out and see people.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that, like, it's about just knowing what works for you and, discovering what really works for you, and that changes and evolves over time through our life. We're constantly changing. We're constantly growing. So it's nice to kind of just notice what's new for me, what's lighting me up now, what's feeling good now. It doesn't have to be forever. If I loved something in the past, I don't need to keep loving it for the rest of my life.
That's such a good point. And don't you feel like that's one of the best things about getting older? I feel like you just start to know yourself better, and you don't mind as much if you're not like the rest of them,
Yeah.
Like, we're in our late 20s, and I've heard it only gets better from here because you feel, comfortable in your own skin.
Yeah. Josiane and I have a saying where we always say, the better it gets, the better it gets. Like, life just keeps getting better.
It's so true.
Yeah. You become more like clear and self-aware, I think, with age, and have a little bit more compassion for yourself, or at least that's been my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Awesome. So I'd love to know, so you're a teacher, you're an educator, you love it. You just got married. How did life lead you to where you are now?
Well, I mean, when I was a very young kid, I wanted to be a famous singer.
Which you could have been, because you have a beautiful voice.
And luckily I married a musician, so we just sing in our living room. So that's all you need. But no, as a kid, I always wanted to be, a singer, a dancer, that kind of thing. But I always loved the idea of teaching too. My sister and I would always play teacher. I would actually type up different math problems for her, print them, she'd do them, I'd correct them.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Super fun. And I remember, in high school, you have to pick a path kind of to do your portfolio or something. And I remember teacher was one of the choices I picked. And then kind of just fell in my lap that I got a job when I was 19 for 2 months as a teacher's aide in my aunt's school, where 5 of my aunts worked, Franco-Manitoban.
Yeah.
So we'll get that. And I just loved it. I remember the moment that all the grade 1 kids stood up to sing O Canada. I was amazed at how adorable and how great they were, and just, I loved interacting with them. And I think I worked in grade 1 and grade 6 that year for those 2 months. So kind of just, I fell in love with it, and I finished my first degree, and then I took a year off to work as a full-time teacher's aide at that same school. So I think that year I did kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, I think, for a bit. And so I got a taste of a lot of different age groups, and I was just so sure by that point that's what I wanted to do. And I even took a year off actually after that to travel in Europe for 2 months. I just got a lot of fun stuff done, or I felt kind of like I did a bunch of adventures, and I was ready to go to education, and that's where I met you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just it kind of just happened. And a lot of my family are educators. So my grandpa, all of my aunts and uncles, I think at some point worked in a school. It's just kind of in my blood.
Yeah.
And just came kind of naturally.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. I always love hearing how people got to where they are, because there's always these kind of breadcrumbs that they've been following, or like something, kind of a flow that seems to have brought them to where they are. And it's always nice to hear that, like, somehow when you were a kid, you already had sort of this passion that was brewing in you of teaching. And
maybe I was just bossy. I don't know.
I like most teachers were probably called bossy at one point in their life. You had a younger sister. I had younger brothers.
Yeah.
I think that, as an older sibling, sometimes we just like fall into the role of teaching others.
Totally. Yeah.
And bossing them around. Yeah. There's no other way of saying it. And then it's cool that, the flow just seemed to lead you to trying it out as a teacher's aide. And I could see it in your face, you lighting up when you talked about working with the young kids and how cute they were. And,
I feel like everyone should almost have that experience. I know you did too, right?
Yeah.
I feel like working as a teacher's aide, you really get a feel for how a school works and you get to try different things. And it's a very nice, it's kind of almost you learn more doing that than going to university. Because, university's awesome and you learn so much, but it's a lot of theory. Mm-hmm. So I feel like, it's one of those things where you have to kind of be hands-on to really, really learn from it. And like I said, every day is different. So
yeah, I think one thing that I really learned from being a teacher's aide or educational assistant is what they called it, was that you were kind of seeing it from like the student's view. Whereas when you're in university learning to become a teacher, you're seeing the classroom from the teacher's view. So it was neat to get to have that experience of working one-on-one with students and seeing what these students really needed to flourish and what kind of supports they needed. So it was good to have that in mind. Once you're at the front of the classroom, you remember what it was like for the one student that needed something done in a specific way,
Totally. And don't you think it's one of the only careers in life where you have experienced the other side too, and you've kind of been trained for it your whole life?
It's so true.
So I actually remember how I felt as a kid in certain situations when I'm, let's say, upset or angry at the class. You always try to remember maybe, okay, take a step back.
What did it
feel like?
How
did it feel like? Because, everybody goes through ups and downs and stuff, but yeah, you have to remember kind of both sides. And it's one of those rare things where you actually have that in your back pocket.
It's so true. Yeah. We all went to school, most of us, from kindergarten to grade 12 and then university. So we've had a lot of like, testing out to see what kind of teachers we liked, what kind of teachers we were drawn to.
And what do we want to be? How do we want to be?
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing a lesson that I learned early in my teaching career, after being an EA and working one-on-one with students, I was able to reach their specific needs. Then once you're in the front of a classroom with, 20 to 35 kids, you quickly realize that you can't give as much attention to every student in the classroom. And you have to learn that you can't be the favorite teacher for everyone. And that each student is going to connect with a different teacher in a different way for different needs in their career as a student. So yeah, kind of just knowing that just be the teacher that feels right for you, and the students that need that from you are going to connect with you.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, they also get to have lots of different opportunities to connect with other teachers and adults in their life too, in the ways that they need it. So
yeah, that's nice. That's true.
Yeah. So Janelle, on the Balanced Educator podcast, we talk a lot about mindfulness. I'd love to know, what does mindfulness mean to you? It's something that's so different and personal for everyone. Everyone practices it or thinks of it in a totally different way. So what does mindfulness mean for you?
So just a side note for everybody listening, I learned everything I know about mindfulness from Kailey and Josiane. Days spent at the cabin, doing yoga, chatting about their different plans and what it was to them. And to me, in the end, at this point in my life, what I've learned so far is that mindfulness is really living your life to the fullest and really, the word noticing is like the key word here. So really noticing what brings you joy and really noticing the moments you're living in, whether it's what you're eating, what you're listening to, the walk you're on, your drive to work, and the people you're with. Really noticing and enjoying it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You really said that so well.
I learned from the best.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. That's really what the version of mindfulness that we really like to teach is that, the goal is to enjoy life more fully. A lot of us in this society have been taught that we have to work hard and hustle and, there's a lot of like intensity and have to's and shoulds. And we just want to remind our community that life is meant to be fun. So let's notice what really brings us joy and let's do more of that, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's one of those things too, when you're a teacher that you always think, like you said, hustle. You have to get the whole curriculum taught. You have to correct. You have to teach this, teach that. But one thing I learned over the years was that it's so important to laugh with your kids. Just take a few moments here and there to just talk to them. And, sometimes I'll stop what they're doing. We'll all get up, put some music on. We'll just have a dance party for 5 minutes. And it just changes the whole dynamic of the day. And it just brings joy. That's what it is at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, like I said, that's what I learned from you guys. I originally thought that mindfulness was, or I guess meditating was, the stereotype of just sitting there thinking about nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is.
Exactly.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, it's just being aware.
Yeah.
It's noticing. I totally got goosebumps when you said that you stopped to have a dance party with your classroom. Can I be your student, please?
They have the best dance moves.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And in grade 2, they're like uninhibited still, right?
Super unaware.
Yeah.
Super don't care that we're watching.
We can learn so much from them, right?
Yeah. Super fun.
Yeah. They haven't quite developed that like critical side of themselves yet where they're judging themselves, right? They're just there to enjoy life.
Exactly.
And that is so beautiful. What a great reminder. So do you have a mindfulness practice in your own life that's like a specific practice that you do every day or every week?
So my mindfulness practice kind of goes hand in hand with how I teach. So every day I take 5 minutes to actually use your tool, Educalm.
Janelle does our École Educalm, which is the French version of Educalm Classroom. So just so that you guys know, anyone that has our subscribes to our online school, they get access to the English and the French version of everything. So we really wanted to make it easier for French immersion teachers to be able to do these practices in either language. So everyone gets access to both, but Janelle does it in French, so she uses the French vocabulary more.
Yeah, exactly. So just like every day for 5 minutes, I play your practice, and it actually is perfect for me to also take those 5 minutes to just be in the moment and relax and breathe and recoup. So it's for the kids, but it's also for me. Like I kind of take advantage of it. So like this past week, actually, there was a little bit of an incident with one of my students. I was very wound up and a little bit upset. And it just so happened that we're about to do the mindfulness practice, and I truly needed it. And I breathed with my kids and I felt so much better after. So, so that's one of my daily things that I do. Other than that, I really took to heart what we talked about once about just doing something that brings you joy in the morning. Because, mornings can be really hectic. If you sleep in or whatever, you're rushed to go to work. But I've been getting up a little bit earlier and just enjoying my mornings, putting on, like you said, podcasts or some music. Another thing I've been doing is putting music on while I'm taking a shower. Super fun. Just get to truly listen to the music. Instead of just putting music on while you're doing something else, I'm listening to my favorite music in the shower. And it's just like a nice way to truly enjoy it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
We had a whole episode on starting your morning joyfully. The episode is called The Morning Routine. So we'll link to that in the show notes for anyone that's interested in going back and listening to that one.
One of my favorites.
Oh, thanks.
Truly spoke to me.
Well, you know what? We've been taught for so long that we're only supposed to have fun or enjoy ourselves as like a reward for a job well done. But why not shift that and like enjoy life first? So wake up and like do something that's fun, like singing in the shower, listening to music, listening to podcasts.
Singing. They're singing.
I'd love to be a ear on the outside of the door exhibit. It sounds awesome. But yeah, why not start out having fun so that you feel awesome, and then you feel awesome throughout your day, and everything just goes smoother because you're in a great headspace.
That reminds me too, when I was first teaching, I lived super close to my work. So I would walk like the 2 minutes to work. And then when I moved further away, I remember feeling disappointed that I would have to do a commute and kind of like, oh, it's going to be such a long drive every day. But I actually love my commute. I look forward to it every day in the sense that it's a time for just me. My radio is broken right now, so I listen to podcasts on my phone. But yeah, music or podcasts. And it's just, or the other day there was a beautiful snowfall, just looking at the trees. It's a very nice time to just be alone. Like, how often do you get to just be truly alone in a day?
So true. That was a big shift for me when I moved to the country and I had a 30-minute highway drive to work. And at first I was like, oh, that's an hour of my day. And I, had this negative story around it. And then very quickly realized that that was my favorite part of the day. Like you said, I was alone in my car. I listened to music that I loved. I had a whole 30 minutes to like get into feeling good before I got to work. And then if I had a difficult day at work, I had a whole 30 minutes to let that go before I got home so that I wasn't bringing that mindset or that feeling home with me.
Totally.
Yeah. It actually ended up being a great part of my day.
Yeah.
Awesome. Everything is what you make it, right?
Yeah. It's just a little bit of a mind shift and it brings you more joy in the end.
Yeah. So awesome. So this whole mindfulness concept, now that you're starting to implement these different practices, this different way of looking at things, have you noticed any like shifts in your life, any changes in your life?
I feel like I just take more time now to reflect on why I'm feeling a certain way or what I'm actually feeling, like when you're frustrated or mad, have you ever had one of those days where you're just really sad for no reason and you just take a step back and think, why? What can I do about it? What can I do to change it? And the biggest change that I've noticed is how I approach kids or problems at work. And of course, the kids, I notice how they use the tools that we've learned in class for their own day-to-day life as well. But just generally, I think it's taught me to take a step back and a moment to think before acting or before reacting to certain things.
Responding rather than reacting.
Yes, there it is.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's, very much like what Josiane and I have experienced too. Just, it's almost, I kind of describe it as like this little buffer of space between something happening and like, now I get to decide how I want to experience something. I get to decide if I want, something to feel really overwhelming or out of control, or can I shift my perspective or look at it from a different angle? There's just more choice.
Agreed. And I feel like it's really made me be a better teacher. So for example, for all the educators out there, let's say there's a kid that just ran into the classroom or whatever it is, or that keeps being like moving around. Instead of getting mad, I will often say, I think that kid needs to take his energy out. So I will maybe suggest that he'll go in the little corner and jog for 30 seconds on the spot. And then, in other words, to take out his energy, or just like find a way to positively change the situation.
Yeah. Oh my God. I have goosebumps over my whole body. That's amazing, Jenna. Like, what you're doing is you're recognizing that they're not a bad kid. They're not trying to be bad, but they have a need that, maybe you can help them to learn how to support themselves in that time. So yeah, if they have lots of energy, like what tool can they use to get them through that, to help them calm down, to get that energy out in a healthy and respectful way?
Yeah. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, when we were kids, the response would probably be, go sit down, don't move. Yeah. And is that going to help the problem? No. So it's really just a matter of thinking, okay, why is this child doing what he's doing? And what does he need right now? And yeah, so just taking the time taking the time to think about it. And
That's
it's not
so
always easy, and I don't always succeed. That's for sure. So I'm not perfect.
And that's okay.
But yeah, it's just like recognizing what you can do differently.
Yeah. Yeah. So awesome. Instead of, saying, yeah, when we were in school, there wasn't the flexible seating and the movement breaks. It was just like, if you're being loud, you're bad. It means you're a bad kid if you can't sit still. Totally. Was what we were taught. And now that's changing. And it's not, you're not bad for needing movement, but you can recognize what your needs are and fulfill them in a way that's productive, or in a way that supports everyone's learning in the classroom, right? In a way that's less disruptive to others. And it's not bad. It's just, we all have our own needs.
Yeah. And the kids these days are very open to all that kind of thing too, I find. But sometimes as a teacher, you have to remind yourself, because you didn't grow up that way necessarily.
Yeah. So it's a huge learning curve for us, because if you've been taught something your whole life and then you're like, wait a minute, I don't like that I was taught that, you have to like rewire your brain. Literally, you're rewiring your brain to look at it in a different way and to respond to it in a different way than what you've been taught your whole life. So good for you for, working on that and giving yourself compassion if you're not always perfect, because none of us are, and rewiring your brain is not easy. So
the hardest part is definitely not beating yourself up if you didn't do it the way you think you should have.
Yeah.
But just try your best. You could have another day to try the next day, right? So
exactly. It's learning, and we're all human, and, but the mindfulness gives you that self-awareness to be like, okay, so how would I react next time? And then I'm going to try to do that next time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So awesome. My last question for you, Janelle, is, from where you are today, what advice would you give your younger self?
Kind of in the same vein that we just, is that an expression in English?
Yeah. It is.
Kind of what we just talked about, like because actually I'm teaching right now with a brand new teacher, and my biggest piece of advice to her, which I guess would be the same for myself, is it's not going to be perfect the first time, the first year, the first 2 years. Give it time. And my mom's advice, which I still think about, is always choose one thing for that period or that month or whatever, that year, if you need it, to work on, and don't sweat the other stuff. Just let yourself do one thing at a time, and to perfect one thing at a time. And there's no way you're going to be perfect the first year. No way.
I would say there's no way that you're ever going to be perfect.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah. But depends what your definition of perfect is, right? For me, it's like having everything I need in terms of the resources, and feeling organized, and feeling like I'm teaching the best I can to the kids, right? And looking back on my first year, of course I made a million mistakes, but I'm also super proud of it. And that's, I think, in part because I was, I had so many people around me that were telling me it was okay. And a lot of people that helped me out at school.
Yeah.
But yeah, just anybody that's starting out, just take your time, and you're going to be in survival mode for a little while, and that's okay. You're no matter what, the kids are going to learn, and that's whether it's from your like I said, like from sharing your stories, or just being a good human and teaching them values and that kind of thing too. Like, they're going to learn, and it's okay.
That's so beautiful. Janelle, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. So fun.
We're excited to have you back. We're definitely going to have you back, because this was a great conversation. Thank you for being one of our Educalm classroom beta testers.
Thank you for that. Super fun.
You're welcome. So if you are interested in checking out Educalm Classroom, you can go to our website, www.educalm, that's EDUCALME. Click on the Learn tab, and that's going to bring you to our online school. So you'll see Educalm Classroom in our online school, and it includes all of our guided mindfulness practices, our lesson plans, our student materials, our posters, our games, all of those creations, both in English and in French. So you've got 2 courses for the price of one. We hope to see you in there. We Also, always jump into Educalm Classroom so that if you have questions, you can ask it right in our online school, and we are there to support you. So thank you so much for being here, and we will talk to you again next week on the next episode of The Balanced Educator.